Welcome to another Jedi Business video. My name is Chris B, and I'm here to take a look at the newest Black Series Archive wave. This is the second wave of Archive figures for 2021, and as you can see, it consists of 4 Black Series figures with the Tuscan Raider, the Hover Tank Driver, the Death Trooper, and the Shore Trooper. And I want to take a look at all of those and see how they differentiate or what's different about those figures from their previous releases. So let's start with the Tuscan Raider. It was first released in 2017 in the black and red box. And then in the same year, it was released again in the 40th anniversary collection for A New Hope on the Kenner-inspired card back. And then we have the Archive figure for 2021. So this is what the Tuscan Raider looks like. I've compared it to all the other releases and I could not find any differences at all. The paint application seems to be identical. The soft goods, the accessories, everything seems to be identical to the previous releases, with the exception of the packaging, of course. So the Archive card is different, of course. But other than that, same thing. So here's an overview of what you get in the box. You get the blaster rifle, you get the Gaddafi stick with 3 different tips that you can exchange so you can make it look different. And I think that is pretty cool. So here's a shot of the Tuscan Raider holding the rifle. Unfortunately, it's not possible to have him grab the rifle in a shooting pose. I've tried several ways, but just couldn't really get it right. The Gaddafi stick, however, fits well into both hands. And as you can see here, the figure is able to hold it at the same time with both hands. And it looks really cool. You can recreate the iconic scene from A New Hope when the Tuscan Raider attacks Luke. So that works really well. The soft goods, you can take it off of the figure, but it is quite tricky to get it off and then put it back on. It's a lot of fabric to a point where I thought maybe it's too much, but it really isn't. Because when you compare it to the movie, you can see that the Tuscan Raiders really, I mean, they wore some big robes. And I think this looks really good overall. And it actually works quite well. You know, sometimes you get these soft goods robes, which have, you know, their own mind on how they want to, you know, sit on the figure. But in this case, if you take your patience, you can make it look really cool. So I think overall this worked out well. Now the pouches and the bandolier that goes across the chest, they're sculpted onto the figure. They're not removable. And I'm not quite sure what that is that's hanging around his neck, but I think it's a water container. At least that's what I always thought it was, but that's also permanently attached and you cannot take it off. So to sum it up for the Tuscan Raider, same thing as previous releases. So if you already own one of those, you can skip this release. It is identical in every way. So let's take a look at the next figure, and that is the Shore Trooper. And that was first released in 2016 in the red and black box. And now, of course, we get the figure again in the Archive wave on a different card back. And so here's a look at the Shore Trooper. As you can see here, it comes with a blaster rifle, fits well into both hands. There is no head underneath the helmet, and there are no removable parts on the armor. So the pouch that's hanging off of the belt, that is sculpted onto the belt and not removable. What's cool here is that Hasbro actually painted the blaster a little, so you get these little silver scratches on it, which I really appreciate. So here are some comparison shots between the 2016 version and the 2021 version. They are both identical except for the paint application on the new one is slightly darker, and it feels like it's overall a bit more dirty. Very subtle difference though, you know, nothing that I would get out of my way for picking up again if I already owned the first one. But, you know, when you have these close-up shots, you can actually see the differences. In person, it doesn't look as drastic, I think. Overall, it's a good figure. And if you missed out the first time around or you want to pick up more, this is a good opportunity now to do that because it is a pretty good figure. So next up is the Imperial Death Trooper. Again, first released in 2016 in the black and red packaging. And now we get the same figure again in the Archive wave in different packaging. And this figure is identical to the first release. I didn't spot any differences, which is unfortunate because I was hoping that in this case they would actually go ahead and paint up the weapons a little bit. Because as you can see, They are just cast in simple gray, and only the bigger blaster rifle has one line of red on it. Everything else is just simple gray plastic, and you know, it's little details like that that can really make a figure stand out from others. And I would have loved to see them pay a bit more attention. But other than that, it's a nicely painted figure. There's no head underneath the helmet. A very glossy looking armor, as you can see. There's no dirt or weathering on it. And what I find interesting is that this is actually the second Death Trooper that we've gotten in the last few months. Because if you remember, Amazon had the Credit Collection figure, which is, by the way, still in stock on Amazon. If you missed out on that, you can still get it. But yeah, it's a good use of the sculpt and the mold, basically, for Hasbro to put out this figure again. And hey, it's a decent figure. I mean, they captured the skinniness of these troopers, and it's also a very tall figure. I think it's about a half a head taller than any of the other troopers released in this archive wave here. So definitely on the taller side. The shoulder bells, by the way, are made out of very rubbery, soft plastic, which you don't really notice when you look at the figure. But if you want to bend the arms higher than 90 degrees, you can do that. And I think fans of articulation, or if you really need to get a dynamic shot, and this figure needs to be in the ultimate action pose, the shoulder bells are not going to get in the way, so that's pretty cool. The pouches on the belt are not removable. The weapons fit well into the hands, so overall this is a pretty good looking figure. And again, if you don't have it already, you have another opportunity to pick it up for retail price, basically. So let's take a look at the last figure in this archive wave, and that is the hover tank pilot, the hover tank driver. They kind of stuck with this name, although it's the wrong name, because, you know, you guys remember that the hover tank in Rogue One wasn't really hovering. It actually had treads, and it was rolling on the sand. And that is something that Hasbro changed up for the Vintage Collection figure, where they actually named it the Imperial Assault Tank Driver. So you can see the hover tank name was changed. And for this release, however, they went back, and instead of calling it the hover tank pilot, they're now calling it the hover tank driver. So anyways, you know, slight inconsistencies, but we've seen this over and over again in Hasbro's action figure line. I mean, you guys probably remember the Hoth Rebel Soldier, then they call it the Hoth Rebel Trooper. Same for the Endor Troopers and Endor Soldiers. So, you know, there's always somehow discrepancies in naming some of those characters. So anyways, let's take a look at the figure. And as you can see here, it comes with one weapon, which is a blaster, and the figure is able to hold it really well in both hands. We do get a trigger finger on the right hand, so you can place the index finger on top of the trigger of the weapon, which looks really cool. The helmet is not removable, and there are no removable parts on the armor whatsoever. In comparison to the original 2016 version, this one is slightly more dirty. So it's not that it was painted drastically different, but I would say that the dirt that the original figure already had is now more pronounced. And I think that this really stands out on the helmet, especially towards the nose area and the cheeks. And that is an easy way on how to differentiate those two figures, the original release and the 2021 version. Overall, really good figure, stands well, doesn't fall over, even rotating on the turntable, it keeps its balance really well. And yeah, it's a good figure. But again, you know, if you already own the original release, you can skip this one. This is basically the same sculpt with a slightly different paint, where the dirt is a bit more pronounced. So to sum it up, the archive line turned out really well, because you get 3 figures from Rogue One, 1 figure from the original Star Wars. And you guys might remember that 2021 is the 5th anniversary of Rogue One. So if you want to celebrate this movie, this is a good opportunity to pick some of those troop builders up and add them to your collection. Like I just mentioned, though, the differences between these figures and the original figures is very minimal, if there are any at all. And but that's what the archive line is for, right? It's basically the Black Series Greatest Hits line, where they put figures back out that are hard to get or expensive on the secondary market. And we don't really expect any changes to those figures unless they have a human head and they can update the head with the photoreal face printing tech. But that's not the case on any of these figures here. So overall, I would say good job, Hasbro. It's a really cool wave, especially now, if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, right? I mean, Shore Troopers were in Mando, the Tuscan Raiders were in both seasons. So yeah, if you're looking to build out a Mandalorian display, there are 2 figures in this wave that you can pick up and build out your diorama at home. So pretty cool. Now, all of those 4 figures are already archived now on the website. If you want to dive deeper, there are more images, all the figure info, accessory details, articulation details. It's all listed for you guys there, so you can look it up. All right, so that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like, please, if you enjoyed this video. Shows me that you guys care, and that means that I'll be making more of those videos. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.